And it just seems like a pair of absolute weapons-grade narcissists.
What he's alleging is true. She sounds like an absolute nightmare.
This woman, this mad hatter who no sane man would go near with a 10-foot barge pole, it is so offensive and so ridiculous.
Blake Lively completely lost it after Piers Morgan tore her apart on live TV, exposing her pathetic attempts to manipulate the media and twist the truth. Did she really think people would just blindly believe her lies without asking questions? The internet saw through the act, and now she's paying the price.
Tried to take over and hijack the movie, and when she didn't get her way, she brought her much richer, more successful and powerful husband in to lay down the law.
And let's be real, Piers didn't even have to try that hard, because Blake, in all her delusional glory, handed him everything on a silver platter. What started as a messy legal war between Lively and Justin Baldoni quickly turned into one of the most embarrassing Hollywood meltdowns in recent history. And Piers? He ripped her apart effortlessly, exposing her hypocrisy, her laughable PR tactics, and her pathetic attempts to manipulate the media.
Baldoni, by the sounds of things, got completely shafted in this one, so if all of this is true, he's 100% justified in suing her.
The courtroom isn't even Blake's biggest problem anymore. She's not just losing in front of a judge, she's losing in front of the entire world. Because when you have $400 million worth of lawsuits hanging over your head, you'd think you'd lay low, right? Nope. Not Blake. Instead, she doubles down on stupidity, using every shady PR trick in the book while simultaneously trying to play the helpless victim.
If even only half of what he's saying is true, Blake Lively is a complete nightmare.
And guess what? Nobody's buying it. The lawsuit has already produced legal documents, and trust me, not one of them makes Blake look good. Then came the Hollywood Reporter cover, aka the final nail in Blake's PR coffin. The absolute mockery of a magazine spread featured an illustration of Blake launching a slingshot at Baldoni, basically confirming that she's on a self-destructive rampage.
It seems insurmountable. It seems like this case cannot be settled.
And let's just say, the internet had a field day, because at this point, it's beyond embarrassing. She wanted to come off as a fearless whistleblower, a strong woman standing up for justice. Instead, she looks like a Hollywood Karen with a god complex who's throwing tantrums when things don't go her way.
This is an actress that was hired to be in the film, and yet she's asking the director, who's also her lead, for the cuts and the edits, and she's decided to take over the wardrobe, and she gets to choose her wardrobe and they pay for it. That's unprecedented. No one's ever heard of that.
Piers saw right through her, and of course, he roasted her to a crisp. He basically said Blake went from America's sweetheart to Hollywood's most delusional celebrity in record time. And honestly, where's the lie? She built an entire career on being the charming, relatable, effortlessly cool blonde.
It's the more, I think, stain on all your gruesome houses. The publicists involved, the actors involved, everybody involved seems to be absolutely horrible.
But the second she got caught weaponizing the media, that entire squeaky clean image fell apart. And the irony, the same media she tried to manipulate is now exposing her. Even Taylor Swift, her so-called bestie, saw the mess and ran for the hills. Because the second Taylor realized Lively dragged her name into this dumpster fire of a lawsuit, she was out.
Because I can imagine how many people in the past have been victim to the kind of stunts that Blake Lively and her husband have pulled, now apparently in conjunction with Taylor Swift, who has oddly decided to distance herself from the couple, which is an interesting development.
And that's the thing. Blake thought she had Hollywood in her pocket. She assumed everyone would blindly take her side because, let's face it, the industry is filled with people willing to say anything for the right PR angle. But not this time. Because the receipts are too damning, the contradictions are too obvious, and her tactics are too transparent. It's actually embarrassing watching her scramble to control the damage.
And that Justin Baldoni and the producer tried to sexually harass this woman, this mad hatter who no sane man would go near with a 10-foot barge pole. It is so offensive and so ridiculous. I mean, I urge everyone to just read through everything that Justin Baldoni
it is utterly...
But nothing, and I mean nothing, was as hilarious as watching Piers Morgan obliterate her in real time. First, he called her and weapons-grade narcissists. which is honestly the most accurate description I've heard.
And it just seems like a pair of absolute weapons-grade narcissists.
Because let's be real, they spent months love-bombing each other, and the second things didn't go Blake's way, she flipped the script and started throwing accusations like confetti.
None of this was ever about making a good film. It was about power. It was about power. And now that power is backfiring. They try to play it out in the public. That didn't work. They don't want Justin playing it out in the public. The only way Blake and Ryan could salvage what's left of their reputation, which they don't even realize, I truly don't think they realize how reviled they are.
And then there's the Ryan Reynolds dragon situation, which is possibly the funniest thing to come out of this entire scandal. Blake literally called her husband a dragon, like some medieval fairy tale nonsense, expecting him to torch Baldoni. But here's the gag. She's the one getting burned. The fact that she thought she could turn this into a feminist revenge story and get away with it is actually comedy gold.
And then she has the audacity to call her husband and Taylor Swift her dragons, and that Justin Baldoni and the producer tried to sexually harass.
And let's talk about her straight up lies. Because leaked texts show Blake privately praising Baldoni's work, even thanking him for certain creative decisions. Yet, publicly, she's out here pretending he's the villain in some Lifetime movie.
They're mad. They're mad at Justin for releasing the full context of those texts. It makes no sense.
And the worst part of all of this,
Piers immediately clocked the contradiction, questioning why on earth Blake felt entitled to demand wardrobe control, script changes, and production decisions, when she wasn't even the director. Like, sis, are you an actress or a dictator?
Blake Lively dropped a lawsuit with all its texts, cherry-picked those texts, removed emojis and like intent and backstory to these texts.
literally outright deleted certain sections of the text.
Yes.
And then came the biggest prediction of all, the ultimate cherry on top of Blake's humiliation. Piers, in his classic cutthroat sarcasm, straight up predicted that Blake would turn on Ryan Reynolds next. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, because when everything starts crashing down, you gotta find a new scapegoat. And if throwing your own husband under the bus gets you sympathy points, you better believe Blake would do it in a heartbeat.
Which they don't even realize. I truly don't think they realize how reviled they are. I don't think they realize they're losing.
At this point, Blake Lively's reputation is hanging on by a thread, and Piers Morgan just took the scissors and snipped. And you know what? She deserves every second of it. Blake Lively really thought she could fabricate a legal case and waltz into the courtroom like the main character in a feminist revenge film. Turns out, real life isn't a badly written CW drama, and the receipts don't lie. She accused Justin Baldoni of inappropriate behavior on set, expecting everyone to blindly believe her because, well, she's Blake Lively.
She was trying to take charge of a situation. You could put the period there. She was not
you could view it with either lens, I think.
But her so-called proof fell apart faster than her public image. And Baldoni? He wasn't playing games. He dropped a 179-page counter lawsuit, absolutely ripping apart her allegations and exposing her power-hungry antics.
If they did something that no litigious celebrity has ever done, which is come out and be like, we made a mistake. Suing someone is a nightmare. It's stressful. It's expensive. It's a life ruiner. And you know what, dude? Even if we're right, it's not worth it.
The legal documents were a disaster for Lively. She was caught demanding access to 2 full years of Baldoni's private records. Not just emails about the film, but his entire digital footprint. That's how desperate she was. If she had any real evidence, she would have focused on the 2 months before filing the lawsuit. But nope. She wanted 2 years worth of dirt, hoping she could find something to twist against him.
Juries don't like liars. Trials are about credibility.
Classic Hollywood manipulation. When someone does that, it doesn't scream, I have proof. It screams, I have nothing, so let me go digging. And just when you think this soap opera couldn't get messier, enter Ryan Reynolds. This man must be reconsidering all his life choices because he started off supporting Baldoni. He even texted him, I just happen to adore you. But the moment Blake flipped the script, Ryan had no choice but to jump ship and pretend he was on his wife's side all along.
If they find that she just was dishonest and lied on one single point of evidence in this case, in her testimony, the jury instruction says that they are allowed to discount her entire testimony.
You could almost hear his PR team scrambling to figure out how to make him look like a supportive husband without getting dragged into Blake's legal dumpster fire. But it didn't work. Hollywood saw through it, and nobody came to Blake's defense. Not directors, not actors, not producers. Silence. When your industry peers who defend every scandal-ridden celebrity don't even bother defending you, you know you've lost the plot.
Her testimony won't even count. And that is that's a harsh reality, because if the jury chooses not to listen to anything she has to say, she's the best witness in this case.
But Blake wasn't done embarrassing herself. Because then came her failed PR stunt, which might go down as one of the worst marketing disasters in Hollywood history. She thought she could promote her film about domestic abuse like it was some quirky, feel-good rom-com. This woman literally told people to grab your friends, wear florals, and go see the movie, as if she was promoting a Taylor Swift concert instead of a film about abuse. The backlash was instant. People couldn't believe how tone-deaf she was.
Because I don't trust you, Blake. I do not trust you. You have lied too much. You have fudged truths. You are trying to hide so much information that you are like your character in a simple favor, and I can't unsee it.
And it gets worse, because Blake, in her infinite wisdom, thought it would be a great idea to promote her alcohol brand alongside the movie. Yep, you read that right. A movie about domestic abuse. And she's out here pushing her booze company like it's part of a fun little girls' night package.
And
No
the worst
sense in
part
that.
of all of this, she decided
Yeah.
to promote a film about domestic violence by flogging her alcohol brand, even though we know that most domestic violence cases are involved drinking by the part of the abuser. And she got her husband's PR company that wasn't signed off by Sony to take over the promotion of the film.
Even Piers Morgan, who has seen every Hollywood PR disaster under the sun, was stunned. He roasted her into oblivion, saying this was like promoting oven mitts while marketing a Holocaust film. And he wasn't wrong. It was so outrageous, so absurdly offensive, that even feminists turned against her. The same people who would normally bend over backward to defend her were calling her out. That's how you know she royally screwed up.
So her testimony is super important in this case. And if you can show the jury that she's lied, juries don't like liars. Trials are about credibility.
But Blake wasn't just tone deaf. She was downright ruthless. To make her claims seem more believable, she threw 2 actresses under the bus. She dragged Jenny Slate and Isabella Ferrer into this mess, making it seem like they had also suffered on set. The problem? Neither of them ever backed her up.
But she thinks this is okay, and like proudly displaying us, we're women, so we can just lie and cheat and steal our way in to control these big movies. I mean, how disturbing is this to you?
They wanted nothing to do with her lawsuit. In fact, Ferrer's own leaked text messages revealed that she actually thanked Baldoni for making the set feel safe and comfortable. If you're going to lie, at least make sure the people you're lying about aren't holding receipts.
She filed a fake Me Too and got caught, okay? Caught. A fake Me Too and got caught.
And then came the $400 million lawsuit. The moment Hollywood collectively gasped. Baldoni wasn't just suing Blake, he was coming for everyone. Lively Reynolds, their entire PR firm, no one was safe. It was a financial nuke dropped right in the middle of their perfectly curated Hollywood life. Because if Baldoni wins, it's game over. And honestly, he's got a solid case.
Trials are about the truth, and juries want the truth. And if you lie to them, they will hold it against you.
And let's talk about the Hollywood betrayal of the century. Ryan Reynolds was all buddy-buddy with Baldoni until he didn't get his way. Leaked legal documents confirmed that Ryan wanted to rewrite Baldoni's script. And when Baldoni said, "Nah, I'm the director," Reynolds flipped sides and aligned himself with Blake. Because at the end of the day, protecting his wife's PR image was more important than the truth. But guess what? It backfired spectacularly. Because now, Reynolds isn't just stuck in Blake's mess. He's a co-defendant in a $400 million lawsuit.
Breaking news, Justin Baldoni just got a big win, meaning Blake Lively got a big loss.
And just when we thought this lawsuit couldn't get any crazier, Baldoni's legal team dropped a bombshell. Taylor Swift, yes, the Taylor Swift, was mentioned in the lawsuit. Apparently, Blake used Swift's name as leverage during meetings, trying to make it seem like Taylor was on her side. And Taylor, she was not amused. In fact, Sources say she was furious that Blake dragged her into this mess without her consent. It's no wonder Taylor completely distanced herself from Lively the moment this lawsuit went public.
None of it was just due to the fact that she seems like a rather shitty person.
And that's when Blake's legal team hit full-blown panic mode. They realized Baldoni had way more receipts than they expected. His lawsuit wasn't just a counterclaim, it was a full expose. So what did Blake do? She scrambled to patch the holes in her sinking ship. She added 48 extra pages to her lawsuit, desperately trying to bolster her case. But let's be honest, it was a joke. At this point, it's like watching a liar try to backtrack after getting caught red-handed. The extra pages weren't strengthening her case. They were screaming, "Please, believe me, I swear I'm not lying."
Now they're saying, well, no, yeah, but she didn't want that. And he wasn't really in character, and it wasn't within the context of what it should have been. So they're trying to skew it kind of a different way.
The entire industry is watching this train wreck unfold, and it's honestly painful to witness. Blake thought she could manipulate the narrative like she was some Hollywood puppet master. Instead, she's exposed, humiliated, and losing at every turn. Piers Morgan was right. This isn't some noble fight for justice. This is Hollywood ego warfare, and Blake is losing miserably.
Number 4, the smear campaign designed by Baldoni's team was intended to derail the SH claims that Lively brought later in time, which seems a little odd to me.
Blake Lively really thought she could manipulate the media like some kind of Hollywood mastermind. But the second she leaked her pitiful lawsuit to the New York Times, it all blew up in her face. She wanted the public to rally behind her, to gasp in horror at her self-proclaimed victimhood. But instead, people saw right through the charade. The second the article dropped, social media erupted. Not in support, but in disbelief. People immediately called out the inconsistencies, dragging Lively for weaponizing the press to control the narrative.
Number 2, the SH has nothing to do with taking over the movie, even though she doesn't deny that she took over the movie. Of course, it'd be probably impossible to do that.
And this is where it gets hilarious. Piers Morgan, never one to let a celebrity's delusion slide, mocked Lively relentlessly for assuming the public would blindly take her side. Like, does she really think we all lost our ability to think critically overnight? She expected people to read one carefully curated article and believe Baldoni was the villain without asking any questions. But this isn't 2010 anymore. Celebrity manipulation doesn't work the way it used to. People fact-check now, and Blake Lively's PR nonsense didn't stand a chance.
So it kind of makes them look like they're trying to take that video now that it's out and kind of spin it in a different direction.
Then came damage control mode. And when I say damage control, I mean full-scale desperation. Blake's team scrambled to spin the backlash, but it only made her look worse. Her lawyer tried to argue that Baldoni was weaponizing the legal system against her, but let's take a second to laugh at that. Baldoni's lawyer fired back immediately, pointing out that Lively didn't even make misconduct allegations until after she filed her lawsuit.
That's Blake Lively's PR firm begging to be let go of the case. I think actually they may have the worst messages of all.
That means she went into this lawsuit with nothing, realized she needed dirt, and made stuff up along the way. And Baldoni? He was ready. He dropped the unedited texts, completely obliterating Lively's credibility. Because she didn't just lie. She strategically cut out parts of conversations to twist the narrative.
This isn't gonna end well for you, Blake. Sorry.
At this point, Blake should have just tapped out. But oh no, she had to drag Ryan Reynolds deeper into the mess. And let me tell you, this man is drowning in it now. Ryan, who built his entire brand on being the charming, funny guy, has now been exposed as his wife's loyal PR puppet. And honestly, it's embarrassing.
There's something wrong with you. And that's exactly what these two people look like. And so it's just glorious to watch it all blow up in their face.
This man literally created a character in Deadpool specifically to mock Baldoni. Like, imagine being so petty that you insert your wife's lawsuit drama into a Marvel movie. And the best part? The whole thing backfired. Instead of making Baldoni look bad, it made Reynolds look like a desperate Hollywood husband who lost his spine.
Whatever. But if someone calls you that in real life, they're all, that woman is cruel. That is really like at least for me, that's the most impactful way that you can say a person's mean. you know? Because cruel is like you're enjoying this. There's something wrong with you. And that's exactly what these two people look like.
And let's talk about the leaked texts, because if there's one thing Ryan hates right now, it's receipts. At first, he was all buddy-buddy with Baldoni, even sending him texts of support. Then, literally overnight, he did a complete 180, suddenly backing his wife and pretending Baldoni was the enemy. Gee, I wonder what changed. Oh, right. His PR team probably sat him down and told him that if he didn't back Blake, his perfect husband image would collapse. So instead of doing what was right, he did what was expected.
Real Me Too stuff, real serial predators that were attacking women who were aspiring actresses who were following their dreams.
And here's where Piers Morgan had the time of his life. He absolutely shredded Reynolds, calling him Lively's attack dog. And honestly, where's the lie? Ryan went from being Hollywood's untouchable golden boy to a man whose entire career is now linked to his wife's reckless decisions. And Hollywood isn't amused. Deadpool and Wolverine may have raked in $351 million, but now critics are openly speculating whether this lawsuit will tarnish Reynolds' next film. Because here's the thing, people don't just forget scandals like this, and no matter how much Reynolds tries to distance himself, his name is now stamped all over this mess.
And then these two, in that environment, go up and they accuse Justin Baldoni of the same type of thing, which was a complete lie. How could anyone allow them to continue in that community after doing that?
And let's not forget how this completely shattered the whole power couple fantasy. For years, people looked at Lively and Reynolds as Hollywood's most lovable duo. They were quirky, charming, and unproblematic. And now, they look like just another celebrity power couple caught in a web of manipulation, scandal, and legal warfare. Because they aren't the relatable, fun-loving couple they pretended to be. They're just another Hollywood duo who think they're untouchable until they get exposed. And that's exactly what's happening.
Sean?
Like, none of this was ever about making a good film. It was about power. It was about power. And now that power is backfiring. They try to play it out in the public. That didn't work. They don't want Justin playing it out in the public. The only way Blake and Ryan could salvage what's left of their reputation, which they don't even realize, I truly don't think they realize how reviled they are.
But the biggest mic drop moment? When Piers Morgan predicted the unthinkable, Blake Lively might turn on Ryan Reynolds next. And honestly, it wouldn't be surprising. Because at this point, she's out of options. If she loses this lawsuit, she loses everything. So what's stopping her from flipping the narrative again? If tomorrow's headlines suddenly say, Blake Lively reveals shocking truth about Ryan Reynolds, would anyone be surprised?
I mean, is it not a little hypocritical? Is this a bad look of her if she's trying to tell the courts that we should stop talking about this in public?
And Piers's final words on the whole situation? Absolute perfection. He called out Blake's entire game plan, saying that this is Amber Heard 2.0. And let's be honest, that comparison isn't far off. Because just like Amber thought she could manipulate the courts, the media, and the public, Blake thought she could control the narrative too. But guess what? It's not working.
Team Justin, which, same PR rep who repped Johnny, who was behind this, Blake sort of saw that as, oh, you're trying to use an Amber Heard tactic, but she didn't even realize, like, that's not a good defense. That means you're guilty because Blake, Amber lied.
The reality is, Lively is facing a no-win situation. If she loses in court, she's finished. If she loses in public perception, she's finished. Either way, she's done. And the worst part? She did this to herself. Because instead of focusing on actual facts, she chose to weaponize PR tactics, twist the media, and fabricate a feminist revenge fantasy that fell apart under the weight of actual evidence.
Blake Lively made, and she lied in their minds about what occurred during that dancing scene because she wasn't aware that there was audio that would maybe explain and give some context to what was happening there. So of course she changes her in her amended complaint, she changes the view of it a little bit.
And let's talk about the bigger Hollywood takeaway. This case has exposed just how far celebrities will go to manipulate the media. The fact that Blake really thought she could control the entire narrative through press leaks and Twitter activism shows just how out of touch she really is. But Hollywood is changing. The days of blindly believing celebrities just because they cry on camera are over.
Really what they did is they said, well, yes, all of that happened, but when Baldoni was in that scene dancing, he wasn't in character. And she was being forced to act as though she loved him, which is, in my mind, just acting.
And the real question now is what happens next? Because Blake is running out of options, and her entire career is dangling by a thread. The public has turned on her. Hollywood has distanced itself, and the lawsuit is only getting worse. So what's her next move? Does she double down on the lies? Does she throw Ryan under the bus to save herself? Or does she finally admit defeat? At the end of the day, the public isn't stupid anymore. This case has stripped away the Hollywood illusion, and now we're seeing Blake Lively for what she really is. And honestly, it's not a good look. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit subscribe for more celebrity takedowns, and stay tuned because this drama is far from over.